Hi, chat. Welcome. It's a Thursday night show, and we're kind of back up and running. If you guys haven't been following along, we're getting the office organized. You guys can see some of the stuff out back, but we got the tool. We got the tools, chat. We got our tools. I think we got the lighting fixed. If you guys don't like the lighting, let me know. But I think this works now. I think the lighting's a lot better than it was. Because otherwise, it's like using the fan, and it's like, actually, where is? Where is the fan remote? Huh. Somewhere around here. Anyway, yeah, no, it's been a big day, big day. I missed a printer with the flashing light. Well, don't worry, that's all gonna get put back out. It's all gonna get put back out. Don't you worry. SB Seller's stream description is used to let a PO box. Yes, it is. But today 2.0 and I went to the DMV and got our driver's licenses done. So we are officially Florida people. So that's the good news. Yeah, see, there we go. Let's turn that on here. Let's put that on. Yeah, I'll keep it on low. We have PO box coming. Now that I've got an address here and I got a driver's license, I'll actually try to go take care of that Saturday morning, because tomorrow is Juneteenth and there is no everything's closed tomorrow. So I will work on that. I will work on that. I like the tiny lamp. Well, yes, everybody likes lamp. Did I knock over a pecan? No. Kay is still here. Says, it looks like you're back in Ohio. Sad you're in Florida, but I'll get over it. Well, Alaska says, holy fuck, it was hot today. Yeah, it was like 95 out. It was rough, dude. I am still getting used to the Florida stuff out there. Yeah, giving you the Ralph experience. Oh. Neo Dark Mare says that is a pain to get in Florida by my 2005 standards. They mail you a PO box. Yes, that's exactly how that works. That's exactly how they do it. But no, the DMV give you issues for my hair? No. But it was really nice. It was really nice. We got in and out. Florida's DMV was a lot better than Ohio's DMV, man. Really, it was. Like, we were in and out, and 2.0, with all the documents, and then I went and got it all done. We got it all done. We showed up at like 3:30. We ended like right at 4:30, but the lady who's working with us, she was working the whole time, didn't kick us out. It was really funny, though. Apparently, there's some guy there. He was like his 6th time taking the driving test, and he was getting upset because he kept on not understanding what to do. So he kept on clicking skip question, and he kept on failing the test. And they tried to explain it to him, and he fucking failed it again. Like, the guy's failed the test like 6 times in a row. So it was kind of funny. Kind of funny there. But yeah, it was very good, it's very weird though in Florida, because when you go to the DMV, it's at the tax collector's office. And that's literally the county elected official position, tax collector. And I'm like, why would you name it that? Because it's like, not only does Robin Hood hate you, but Jesus hated you. I mean, like, that is really rough. That is really rough. To have that as a name, I'm like, I felt so bad. Yeah. Skip dialogue for the entire test. Yeah, I don't know if the guy's going to get it, but no, I have a Florida driver's license now, which is nice. So I can buy guns. I can go get a P.O. box. I can do all kinds of things. I can get pulled over and not be completely sus. That's the best thing here. Truck driver says, I'd beat the fuck out of any tax collector. Well, like, it's a literal job position. And when you Google in Florida where you could go get your license, the tax collectors, like, works with the DMV on everything. It's very interesting. Brad, it says, Jesus ate with the tax collectors. Yes, but he also told them quit being a piece of shit. So, if Jesus hated you, you're probably a bad man. Are you still registered to vote in Ohio? No, I am registered to vote down in Florida now. So, nope. Did your new license have your citizenship on it? I didn't check. The DMV employees suck too. How is that place not a huge target? The lady helping us was like absolutely fucking awesome. Lady helped us was based. Even worse, they only collect the tax assessors. That's what you pay. Yeah. Let's see here. Yes, that is the interesting part. The license is good for 8 years. Like I was like, wow, that's pretty neat. 8-year long valid license. I like that. I like that a lot. Jesus said also render to Caesar things that are Caesar and to God things that are God. I agree. I'm not trying to go full ANCAP. I'm just like, still, you know, obedience to, it's adherence to liberty, is I think coincides with a faith in God, So I think that's something to think there. I think that's something important there. I think it's important. Where is what did I miss? I missed something here. Did Jesus even hate? I mean, a little bit. True tax collectors can use their nose as a sundial. Yeah, but it's also very interesting too. Just like all the liquor stores, everything down here, it's like based, very based. Even CDLs, 8 years. Wow, that's nice. Keep pass as long as you don't do any stupid Arizona licenses are like 40 years. Really, even more based. California is 5. Jeez, California, like Ohio is 4. Ohio, your license is only good for 4 years. So yeah, Drunk Driver says God's plan. Yes. Oh. Tex ANCAP says, go full ANCAP, pussy. I'm not going to live in the woods. No. Kurt, how you doing, Kurt? Says, so now I can have weed and guns now. Sweet. And you have gummies. Yes, we're going to get to that tonight. That's a very big thing to start us off with, actually. Costco sells alcohol, yeah. Dolly says my license expires in 2055. That is so neat. You guys get that one day. Like every state's got something they're super based about. And it's like if you could combine them together, it'd be the best thing. Yes, Dolly, Kurt, Dolly wants you to do an Instapot cooking stream with THC. Use some THC butter. Oh, all right, guys. Well, we got enough people here. I think it's time to get started. Let's hit this up here. Which Supreme Court ruled that I could have opium. Well, that's not happening. All right, guys. I think we'll start off with you don't have to wear motorcycle helmets in Arizona. Wow, nice. I've always said car registration is unconstitutional. It's a tax that isn't a tax. Oh, I agree. Adam says the biggest difference you notice moving. It just fucking rains all the time. It's like 4:00 and it's just pouring rain. Like today, we were driving back from doing some stuff, and it just rained and rained and rained. But it's weird because it's not like horizontal rain, but it's just really, really hard. Wrestler Town for $10 says the one cool thing about Florida is that the government doesn't care that you are there. They barely care about oppressing you because they make money off your sales tax. Well, they make money off tourist sales tax, but yes. All right. Wait till the spring. It doesn't rain at all in Florida. Well, I know that. It rains. It's the dry season over the summer. I remember one time I went to see my parents around St. Patrick's Day. Could have been like 17 or 18. And there was like a forest fire in the swamp out in Naples. So like it smelled like burning swamp and it was nasty. So how many cottonmouths have decided your car is a gazebo? Oh God, I don't know. I don't want to find out. I don't want to find out. So, where in Florida did I go? The gayest part of Florida. That's where I went. No, I can't. I can't help you there. I ain't telling. I ain't telling. Well, Debbie O for $10. Hi, Debbie. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Says it is summertime in Florida. It's the rain season. Yes. It will rain every single afternoon. Last week it didn't, but yeah, this week so far it's like rained every day, and I'm like, geez. You will come to like it when you see how it reduces the humidity. I will say that we went to dinner, 2.0 and I, and we got done with dinner after like the rain came through, and holy cow, it actually felt it was like 75, and all the humidity was gone. It felt really, really good. Felt really good. Mine Key West, no. Yes, I got a house in Disneyland. Yes, I live in Disneyland. That's where I moved. Is it Cocoa Beach? No. So, EWF says, I hate to decide a second super chat. Sorry. Yes, I see that now. EDW Raptor for $5. Thank you, EDW. Hope you guys are doing well out there with Tropical Storm Arthur. He is just pounding the crap out of the Gulf Coast. Says, thanks for reminding me it is Juneteenth Eve. Make sure to leave out some Kool-Aid and sickle cell medication. Well, why not some chicken instead? Some chicken and some watermelon fruit drink. Got to find the ghost of Trayvon out there. You need to step up your drift game and you get a pay pig or going like they had last night in the casino. Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't hear about last night, but I guess I'm glad it was good. Nero says, you get an PO box yet? I'll get one Saturday. Had to wait till I got a driver's license for here. And menthol ciggies. Yep. All right, guys, it's time to go. Yes, Kurt is right. Talk is cheap. Let's go. Let's go, chat. It's been 10 minutes. All right, guys, starting off tonight, we have some based information. We are starting off with some Second Amendment related news. Some good news out of the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit decided that a suppressor is an arm under the Second Amendment framework. The problem is the guy possessed it without him registering it and getting a tax stamp. And the Fifth Circuit upheld his conviction saying, well, that's a reasonable restriction. So it's kind of good, but it's really bad at the end of the day. Like, we're not getting what we want. And honestly, as I said before, until you get 9 Clarence Thomases on the Supreme Court, and even then, the NFA ain't going away. So I'm sorry. Sorry about that. But we're getting to something dropped in the Supreme Court. The big thing still out there, the citizenship one, which, guys, like I said, is not going to go our way. I'm willing to be wrong. I hope to God I'm wrong. I'm not going to be wrong. I'm not going to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I need to be wrong. Like the whole Denims thing. Like, I got to take the L there. I want to take the L here. I've been praying to God, God, give me the L. Give me the L on the citizenship thing. I don't think it's going to happen. But today, a big one actually came out. In the meantime, though, and this is in regards to 18 U.S.C. 922 G3. And guys, if we go to that, that is the statute that prevents it's the unlawful acts regarding possession of firearm and the disqualifications that exist out there. And what are those disqualifications? Well, if you go to 18 U.S.C. 922 G, it talks about things here. Well, if you've been convicted in court by a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year. So that means most felonies. That said, in Ohio, there are felonies that have a term of up to 12 months. So you actually can be convicted of some felonies and not be disqualified. Are you on the run from the law? And then what's worried, the biggest thing for us tonight is you're an unlawful user of any or addicted. So just using an unlawfully stuff to any controlled substance is defined under the Controlled Substance Act. That's where we start. That's where we start our story here. And here we go. What is this case? Well, it's very interesting. It is a case of the United States versus Hamani. And we're going to start out, and this is, this is a 9-0 opinion, actually, chat. 9-0 opinion from the court. From the court, and we're going to get to actually the beginning of it here. So this is done by Justice Gorsuch. That's right, chat. Neil the Deal Gorsuch. And we're going to fly through this, but there's a lot of good information here. So Ali Hamani uses marijuana a few times a week. Because of all of that, the government says he can't possess a firearm. And because he admitted he owned a gun, the government's now seeking to imprison him for up to 15 years. And that's true. 15 years if you violate 18 U.S.C. 922. But anyways, what happens? Well, the Gun Control Act of 1968 prohibits various categories, and then listed in 18 U.S.C. 922G, including people who have been convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, fugitives, those with domestic violence convictions, that's a Lautenberg Amendment, chat, and a bunch of other things. And this one is the unlawful users of addicted to or, users that are addicted to controlled substances. You're automatically banned from possessing a gun. There doesn't need to be a federal finding. A court doesn't need to adjudicate it. If you happen to use drugs, you're banned. If you are addicted to drugs, you're banned. And once again, you could face 15 years in prison. So what is it? Well, they talk about the Controlled Substance Act and what gets defined there. And it talks about everything from Schedule 1 drugs. Remember, marijuana is being reclassified to Schedule 3, but it's still not. It's still a Schedule 1 drug. All the way down to Schedule 5 drugs with the lowest potential for abuse, like Tylenol with codeine. Covers everything. It says by incorporating all of this, what does it allow you to do? Well, it makes it illegal for anyone who's unlawfully doing it to possess a firearm for any reason. And that's true. And the convictions for 922G3, which is the prohibition for that, are about 5% of all 922G convictions. Almost every conviction for 922G, chat, is somebody who's either fugitive from justice or they've been convicted of a crime where they face more than 1 year of imprisonment for it. And generally speaking, those are felons in possession. But they point out here how this all worked. So Hamani's a dual citizen of the United States and Pakistan, who was born in Texas and has spent most of his life there. In recent years, he lived in Dallas with his parents and worked a stable job. But anyways, his family members were suspected of terrorism-related activities. So what did the government do? They conducted a search of the family home in 2022. Throughout the process, Hamani proved cooperative. He surrendered a gun he kept in the house and pointed agents to some of the marijuana on the property. He also consented to an interview. Don't talk to the cops, Jet. Don't. He told the police that he used marijuana about every other day. They found cocaine in his house, and he claimed ownership of that as well, pulling, doing what I think Nick wanted his kids to do, going, "No, that's our cocaine, not our daddy's." He maintained that his mom had hidden it from him and that he had not used any recently. That's a convenient story. More than 6 months after the search, the government brought a single charge indictment against him. Nothing to do with terrorism. No, what was it? It did not involve the possession of cocaine. So it wasn't about the cocaine possession. Instead, solely relying on his admitted use of marijuana, the government prosecuted him for knowingly possessing a gun in his home while being an unlawful user of a controlled substance. That is it. No matter, the government did not assert this guy was a drug addict. No matter, it did not contend his drug use had ever led him to pose a danger to himself or others. And no matter, too, the government did not claim that he had done anything with his gun other than possess it in his home. Yeah, that's all this guy's done with it so far. That's all this guy's done with it so far, which is literally nothing. So Hamani moved to dismiss, arguing that this was a violation of the Second Amendment. The district court granted the motion after an unsuccessful appeal to the Fifth Circuit. And here's the thing. So the district court said, yup, he's right. The government appealed it, and they lost. And the government then went to the Supreme Court and said, review the case. Now, we get to the Second Amendment history here. You talk about District of Columbia versus Heller. Then you get to Bruin, and, we're there. Like, all this is going on here. And they point out that cases, and they show you have to get to the Constitution presumptively protecting Second Amendment activity. To overcome the presumption, the government bears a burden of showing its regulatory effects are consistent with the nation's historical tradition of gun regulations. Well, that becomes an issue here because we never really prohibited people previously. Now, obviously, yes, the regulatory challenges are not the same. So you don't have to find a historical twin or precise historical precursor, because that wasn't a thing. Instead, the analysis involves considering whether the challenge regulation is consistent with the principles that underpin our regulatory traditions. The government can use reason by analogy if there's something out there. And they say, and they point out, we have not yet cause to exhaustively survey the features that may render a modern law relevant. We have said to play a central role, and they're the why and the how. And guys, that comes from also looking at Rahimi as well. That's the other case we dealt with more recently. The more closely a contemporary law mirrors a well-established historical analogy in purpose and operation, the more likely it is to be upheld. And conversely, the more modern law diverges from traditional laws on purpose and operation, the less likely it is. And that makes sense. You got to stick with it and make it sense here. And they say the government accepts all this. It agrees that the unlawful user provisions conduct presumptively protected behavior by the Second Amendment. So the government's saying that they have something out there that's similar. It gives them something they can point to. And that's the issue here. That's the issue here. Now, here's the thing. And they point out that the law says the government doesn't require anything more. It doesn't matter what controlled substance it was using, in what amounts, or whether his drug use has ever made him a danger to himself or others. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why he keeps a gun or how safely he does it. Nope. For violating this automatic rule, it's almost strict liability. 15 years in prison, possibly. So what do they do here? Well, the government's trying to rely on an analogy to what it calls habitual drunkard laws. And the government, people have, there are traditionally people who are winos and alcoholics. Well, we don't allow them to have guns. But they point out here, the court says these fall into three categories. First are vagrancy laws. Vagrants and bums and hobos had a really tough time. It was really tough for them. So the vagrancy laws are the first part of it. And yes, sometimes you could be held in a workhouse or jailed. The second are the civil commitment statutes. Around the same time, states would allow guardians for various individuals, including habitual drunkards, and authorize their commitment. And then third are the surety laws, and that's where we keep on hearing things. So at that point, you could compel people who are drunkards or people who are stupid or irresponsible. You'd have to post a surety bond to ensure their good behavior. Now, what does that mean? It's you post a bunch of money and say if something happens, that money's taken away from me and generally used to fix the problem I created. So you're paying for your right to do this and basically pay knowing that you're not going to want to give away your money. Now, a person who posted bond and then misbehaved would forfeit the bond. They point out under these laws, the government says that that's the close thing here. The government says these target habitual drunkards for the same reasons. Why? Because they're regularly using intoxicants. So saying it's just like that. And the government argues that it's operating in practice much like 922 G3. And they point out that, also these drunkard laws resembled the unlawful user provisions in many other ways. And they say, we disagree. Neil Gort's just like, no, we're not doing this, buddy. Nope, we are not doing it. So, this is... You guys are telling the government to suffer. I love that. Yes, the government's suffering. They say they appreciate drugs and guns can make for a dangerous mix. He says, we appreciate the effort to analogize a modern statute to historical laws must be approached with sensitivity that many drugs well known today were unknown in early America. And as we have put it, the Second Amendment can and must apply to circumstances beyond those the founders specifically anticipated. And that's true. The rest of the amendments apply beyond what they could foresee. They point out, though, after this, the government still can't carry the burden. And they say, based on the historical record and arguments compiled by the parties before us, is where you go. And the drunkard laws here are different dramatically from 922 G3. And it's on every single metric. They target different kinds of people. Did so for different purposes. And operated in different ways. They say whether one of these problems taken would prove fatal, we hold they certainly do. And that's the thing here. None of these, if these fail, they're done. And they say could take it cumulatively, we hold they certainly do. So they say, look, even on its own, it's toast. But altogether, it's really bad. They say, apart from pointing out habitual drunkard laws, the government has not attempted to prove that any other principle might justify its prosecution in this case. They've just stuck on that and left it. And they talk about the government's first point of comparison. And when they talk about the civil commitment stuff. Well, yeah, so what happened? Someone who for any considerable part of life was intoxicated to such a degree, deprived of ordinary reasoning faculties, could be civilly committed. Now, here's the thing. A regular or even frequent drinker did not usually fit the bill. A man who was intoxicated or drunk one half of his time is more like it. I talk about one of the early medical in an early medical treatise, Dr. Benjamin Rush, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. One of our founding fathers offered this description of a habitual drunkard. Says, if you put a keg of rum in one corner of a room and were a cannon constantly discharging cannonballs between me and it, I cannot refrain from passing before that cannon in order to get at the rum. Yes, they need it that bad. They need that rum. They really, really do. They need that rum. Or maybe gin, depending on your situation. Now, they point out that, this doesn't work. But they point out in Arkansas, someone had to drink to such excess he was incapable of conducting his own affairs. And they say that in, to be mentally competent in Minnesota, it requires things. They say in Connecticut, you had to have lost the power of self-control. And for the District of Columbia, a habitual drunkard was any person who, through the use of intoxicating liquor, has lost self-control or become incapable of proper attention. And they point out that had this been applied to those who simply drank regularly, many notable early Americans would have faced trouble. John Adams had a tankard of hard cider with his daily breakfast. Yes, but that's the thing. Everybody back then drank alcohol because it was safer than water. It's the reason why people drank beer, because water was not treated. Water would get you sick. Well, alcohol would generally keep a lot better. James Madison had a pint of whiskey daily. Based. There was all kinds of drinking back then. George Washington often drank Madeira in the evenings. Not to be considered a heavy drinker, but if he drank every night, people today might call it that way. Thomas Jefferson had 3 to 4 glasses of wine at dinner. They talk about just before there was the final signing of the Constitution, they had a party. 55 guests had 54 bottles of Madeira, 60 bottles of wine, 8 bottles of old stock, 22 bottles of port, 8 bottles of cider, 12 bottles of beer, and 7 large bowls of punch. Man, those guys got tore up. Toe up, as I would say. Shinobu was saying it's a myth they would do it to avoid dehydration. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it was a safer thing to drink because it was more available and you could guarantee that it wasn't full of like Giardia or something. And they say there was a culture of copious drinking in early America. It was. They point out in 1289, the Secretary of War estimated that 3/4 of the nation's laborers drank at least 4 ounces of distilled spirits every day. That's a lot of drinking. Wow. Even the American Temperance Society called those who drink 12 ounces of hard liquor merely occasional drunkards. So, like 12 shots, chat. 12 1-ounce shots. You're an occasional drunk. It took 24 ounces to qualify as a confirmed drunkard. It's like, jeez. That's a hell of a high bar out there, chat. That's a hell of a high bar. Oh. So, you need a full fifth a day. I know that's real hard drinking. The government's laws targeted drunkards not because they regularly use intoxicants. Instead, because their drinking rendered them practically incapacitated and incapable of managing their affairs. A guy who smokes weed all the time, yeah, it might be a bit of a bump on a log, but he can still take care of himself. Like somebody who drinks, well, if they fall over on their side, you got to worry, like, are they going to roll over and choke on their vomit? Are they in the recovery position? What's going on with them? Like, all the different things that are going to happen. So, there are a lot of problems with this, and probably just as many, if not more, than for the electric stuff going on here. And they point out, to be sure, the government construes unlawful users to embrace only habitual or regular users, not those who use drugs irregularly. And they say, but based on that understanding, 922G3 disarms anyone who regularly uses any amount of a controlled substance for anything other than its prescribed purpose. And they point out the law does not require them to assist a particular person is regularly incapacitated, much less incapable of conducting his affairs or threat to himself or others. So what does this mean? A large number of people are involved in this without regard to whether their substance use has a kind of incapacitating effect on them. Yeah, I mean, they could say, look, I quit doing it. I have a different mindset now. A different mindset. You could say it's almost a legal mindset. Bump. That these drunkard laws didn't have. It's a problem here. But they point out that there's issues with this. Even though he says he uses marijuana about every other day, okay, well, Neil Gorsuch is right. How much? What potency and to what effect? Is he unable to manage his affairs? Is he a risk to himself or his family? Or does he use a mild gummy as a sleep aid a few times a week? We don't know, and the government says it doesn't either. And it doesn't care. And they're like, it doesn't matter what you think. The government asks us to analogize him to a habitual drunkard all the same. So it doesn't stop there, though. Like a guy who takes his wife's Ambien, and a college student who routinely uses a friend's Adderall to cram would also be in trouble. I know a lot of people who did the Adderall thing. So the Adderall stuff, I just never understood. So they just go and they point out that someone regularly uses any substance, family schedules for anything than the prescribed purpose is enough. And that's all it takes. All it takes. And they say, without more, the government says all those people are drunkards. Just like a town drunk. like Otis the drunk from like Andy Griffin. You're like, no, he's not. Those people aren't. And to state the analogy is to expose the deficiency. And I like how they do that. State the analogy is to expose the deficiency. And they point out it's not the only government's problem. But they point out the government says early vagrancy, civil commitment, and surety laws shared a similar purpose. But even the government, spotting the government its assertion about 922 G3's aims that like protecting the public from unusually dangerous individuals who misuse their guns because they're druggies, the government misapprehends the purpose of animating the analogs. And talking about the vagrancy laws as a rule, people who did not meet the societal expectation of work. Yeah. And they made you work if you show up and you're a bum. Not so it wasn't just drunkards, but also vagabonds, common beggars, pipers, fiddlers, then stubborn servants or children, and common night walkers. And they say it's very clear here that this people who would not provide support for themselves or support their families. The bums were sent to workhouses where they could be set to work. And then other statutes authorized short jail terms. They wanted to promote productivity and suppress any number of perceived vices. But they focused on protecting the public from a category of unusually dangerous persons. I mean, it's very funny when they talk about this. Go here screaming from that protecting that person from Minnesota. A similar story unfolds with the civil commitments. They talk about an 1827 act in Michigan when Michigan was still a territory. And they say, worried that drunkards oftentimes wasted their estates by excessive drinking and involved themselves in their families, which is very common. People would drink away their inheritance. So what happened? The laws permitted probate judges to assign guardians to the drunkard to take care of that person, and their estate. They point out the government has another kind of law that was there, and the court could confine habitual drunkards to mental asylums in order to prevent them from using intoxicating liquors and to reform them. But they point out these laws did not protect the public. It protected the drunkard from themselves. And they go on to point out surely the last is the surety laws. And yes, those are not there. But yes, somebody had to post a bond and pledge to keep the peace. It's like, yeah, we're not doing that. Now, some surety of the peace laws we held were designed to prevent violence and targeted the misuse of firearms. And they say, notably, the government doesn't rely on the surety of the peace statutes in this case. And they say that makes sense. And they say to warrant the imposition of a surety of peace is enough. Just being a habitual drunkard wasn't usually enough. So what do? The government wants you to do a different kind of surety for individuals to post sureties for good behavior. And they say under those laws, a judge can impose a surety of good behavior on individuals who have threatened a scandal. And they say a scandal could include anything from haunting bawdy houses to eavesdropping to, yes, being a common drunkard. They put out, in fact, one surety statute targeted those who had a common practice of getting drunk and profane and swearing and blasphemy of the great dishonor of God. They say, but what does any of this prove? They say instead these laws sought to protect communities from scandals. And they say the government doesn't end with the why because they keep on going. They keep drilling into the ground to kill it. They keep on trying to kill us. Remember, though, this guy's been through 2 DOJs, the Biden and the Trump administration. Like, why is this being still dealt with? Why is it still being dealt with here? They point out that when a law regulates arms bearing for people of reason, we have said it may not be compatible with the Second Amendment if it does to an extent beyond what was done at the founding. Yeah, and they point out that the way the drunkards laws react now are different. And they point out, drunkards could be assigned a guardian or committed. After you went to probate court, and there's a thing there, and typically surety bonds required a proceeding before a justice of the peace could order one. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't just impose stuff on people. Remember, we have due process. So it's the process which you do is generally a hearing to challenge things in front of you. Now, for G3, none of that happens. What happens? A statute automatically divests you. The government says that an unlawful user is entitled to a full dress criminal trial before he can be imprisoned or permanently disarmed, which is great. But you know what? There's no pre-deprivation process. There's no due process before that or the temporary disarmament. And the very burden the government says is akin to vagrancy. The vagrancy, civil commitment, and surety laws, like we all have hearings on that, and you're forced to, like, if you're found to be problematic, well, then you deal with it. And they say we see one more problem you have the government's missions here, and they point out that the why, and it's another why issue. They say the first doesn't have to do reliance on the CSA, and they say instead, it disarms anyone who regularly uses any drug found on the CSA schedule for something other than its prescribed purpose. And they point out the Controlled Substance Act, in turn, was adopted to protect people and the health and general welfare of the American people. Drugs can be added to the schedules for a variety of reasons. And those reasons that include the state of the current scientific knowledge, whether or not something's an immediate precursor. And they say without question, some unlawful users of controlled substances can pose a risk of violence. And they say, but by defining its scope through the CSA, a statute animated by a variety of other components, it is far from obvious that the 18 U.S.C. 922 G3 concerns its reach to those who are not categorically and unusually dangerous. I mean, yeah, not just they smoke a little weed. Like, that's not enough. That's not enough. It's not enough out there. It's not enough out there. So they point out the second reason. Marijuana is listed as a Schedule 1 drug, but we have also heard after oral argument, the government moves some of the products to Schedule 3. The schedule, it says that drugs have a lower potency. And years before that, the DOJ issued a memorandum directing federal prosecutors to curtail their efforts of enforcing against marijuana users, even while all marijuana products remain on Schedule 1. And they say a bunch of changes have happened. While marijuana use is largely unlawful, the number of federal offenders sentenced for possession haven't. And they say most states responded by legalizing marijuana and to use one degree or another as a matter of state law. Yeah, there's a lot of states. And it says, as of June 27, 2025, 40 states, 3 territories. Oh, I was wondering what the heck that's the Eufy running. And the District of Columbia have legalized some marijuana use. As a result, they say there may be now more adults in this country who use marijuana than consume alcohol. Like, I kind of believe that. Like, there's going to be a lot there. There's going to be a lot there. Chat, give me 1 sec. I have to go get a drink real quick. I will be right back. Hold on. Hold on. All right, chat. Sorry about that. We're back. Oh, no. No, I didn't go to Publix yet. Clyde, come back. Yeah, Clyde's back. Clyde's been good lately. Yes. Bogdanov sends their regards. Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to keep going. Let's keep this going here because you're getting to the point. Like, the times they are changing. You know, the use in the United States from 1979 2002, they said that more individuals self-report daily use of marijuana. They say whatever one thinks, the government has not just tolerated them, it helped fuel it. And that's kind of a problem. The government has slowed down prosecuting it. So now you can't just say, well, you can't do that now. Like, yes, it's very unfair to do what the government's doing here, where it'll do this in one breath. And then all of a sudden, then turn around and screw over Hamani like this. Because, like, how do you do that to a guy? How do you do that to a guy if you're the government? Like, they put, like, this is where the court's just looking at an equity, like, fairness. How does this work for somebody when you do this to them? You know, like, this guy's trying to, you told him, here's the law. You're not enforcing it really anymore. Like, nobody's been enforcing it for a long time. States have been doing whatever the hell they want. The government's been allowing it. So what do you do? Like, how do you address this? And it is an issue of how do you fairly address this thing? So there's a Bruin thing here, but there's a public policy argument. How is this fair to everybody? But yes, saying everybody who regularly uses marijuana are categorically and unusually dangerous. It's like, yeah. Now they're saying that we don't question that sometimes an individual's use may render him a danger. But the government disclaims the need to show that. And instead, they ask us to conclude anyone who uses it is categorically violent and dangerous. And it's like, yeah, you can't, they're not going to do that. And they say all based on little more than its current say-so, one at odds with its own regulatory actions. And they say affording the government that kind of broad power designate anybody as dangerous would risk allowing it to quickly swallow the Second Amendment. And notice this is a case that Justice Barrett is now dissenting on. Isn't it interesting how that all works? Isn't that interesting? They say in many respects this is a narrow case. It is a narrow case. We don't address efforts to ban addicts. That's true if you're heavily addicted, it's going to be different. We don't address other prophylactic laws. Users of a particular drug pose a special risk. We don't address 18 USC G1's provision disarming individuals convicted of felonies, often though that are drug related. We don't even address whether the government could bring a prosecution under G3, accompanied by individualized proof that the defendant's use of marijuana renders him a danger to others, which it theoretically could. If you could show that, then you could probably do it. But that's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening here. They say, or proof that a certain drug renders its users dangerous because of its potency. None of that's before us, and we don't pass on them either way. And they say all that is before us, if surely ambitious theory. The government maintains that it may strip him of his Second Amendment because he smokes marijuana a few times a week. The government insists they can imprison him. It makes no difference if he keeps the firearm in his home for self-defense, never misuses a gun, and never poses a danger to himself or others. The only thing the government must show is apparently that he regularly uses any amount of controlled substance, which is not that's all they have to do. And that's not fair. That's not fair. And they point out that they have to draw between the current regulations and the laws for drunkards. And the government's analogy fails under every measure it asks us to consider. They say, faced with all these shortcomings of government submission, we can't say it has carried its conceded burden of showing its prosecution complies with the Second Amendment. The judgment of the Fifth Circuit is affirmed. It is so ordered. And yes, chat, that is what happens here. So what happens from here? Well, Justice Thomas concurred. Of course, Clarence concurred. And then it's funny because we're not going to go through Clarence's concurrence here. And we're not going to go through the other concurrence here of Jackson and Sotomayor. They concurred. They concurred saying, yeah, we shouldn't screw this guy over, but they're saying Bruin's bullshit. So it's interesting how they handle this. It's a 9-0 decision. It's a 9-0 decision. So what does this actually mean for you if you're out there? Like if you smoke marijuana, you know, hey, do you smoke weed every day? If you don't have any like weird issues with it, you're probably going to be okay. Would I tell you to talk to an attorney in the area where you live? Yes, because every federal jurisdiction might be a little different. Every circuit might be a little different. But overall, the general idea is you could if you have a little bit of weed, you could own guns now. So go ahead, go for this. Go for this. Yes, I just don't understand. Thank you, Adam. Yes, Katanji, yes, she did. I'm sure she did.
It just don't make no sense.
I remember the first time I showed that to Ryan Mullally, and he was kind of like, "Oh," and now he's pretty much on board with it, which is great. Tejas Liver, it's been a member for 4 months. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Says, I'm so excited for the Hawaii decision next Thursday. I am too, but we'll see how that goes. I think that's going to be like the only bright spot next week because, like I said, I think the citizenship case is not going to go the way we want. And we're going to find out you could shit out a kid in the bathroom of the airport and they're a citizen now magically, which is not how that's meant to go. Just not how that's meant to go. Kay says it's still in the transfer form. Well, it's going to have to go away at some point. But you still can't be addicted though. Like if you smoke like meth or bath salts all the time and you're losing your fucking mind, well, yeah, you're like, you could probably argue your drug addiction is bad. But if you have a little bit of weed once in a while, you're probably okay. So it's not going to go away. It's just about what it does. Yes. Meanwhile, Duncan continues in limbo. Yes. It's going to be there for a while. How much can you smoke? I don't know. So Ryan is all aboard the TND train, pretty much. Teos saying, what do you think about Clarence Thomas saying federal regulation of guns under Commerce Clause is gay? He says that, but let's see a machine gun case come to the Supreme Court and see how hard he goes in the paint when he dissents to the denial of cert. Because Clarence Thomas doesn't, he ain't like I said, Clarence Thomas ain't letting us, make crates of full auto AKs that we can bury in our backyard for a rainy day. Clarence Thomas ain't helping us. So just keep that in mind. Guys. I don't think that's going to help. So, I mean, he can talk a big game. And, he does. He does talk a good game, but not holding out hope. Not holding out hope for Uncle Clarence. Not holding out hope for Uncle Clarence. Could I see that getting showed soon? Maybe. Poor man says, I read the U.S. Iran memorandum. No, I don't really want to. I don't want to be depressed. It's not. There's nothing good in there. So I'm not looking forward to that. Like we took an L, chat. Taking an L. We're taking an L. All right, guys. Now moving on from there. Well, the straits reopened, but let's see. What do you think about Clarence Thomas saying federal regulation of guns under Commerce Clause is gay? He says that, but let's see. We didn't. The straight could have been opened earlier. So now this is an interesting thing that happened. So out in Pennsylvania, the district attorney of where Philadelphia is Larry Krasner, and it's interesting. He is very left wing, and you guys never seen him before. This is a picture of Larry Krasner. He is a darling on the left. They love him. They like to talk about him. This is him. This is him. And Philadelphia is in Philadelphia County. You guys didn't realize that that's where it is. And it is, well, it's very left-leaning. And as part of many district attorneys and prosecutors' offices in big cities, they do what's called conviction integrity units. Because there are many times where we find out that, court cases weren't done right. There were problems with the convictions. Evidence was withheld. Sketchy shit happened. And we need to right those wrongs. We should right those wrongs. Well, he is a Soros-funded DA. And, things happened. Some things happened, chat. And what was happening? Well, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And guys, remember, in Pennsylvania, that's their highest court. They got involved. And they did this. And this is like, we might read through this at another point. It's over 109 pages long. But it's the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus a guy known as LeVar Brown. Now, what does all this mean here? Well, here's some things, and here's some research I've been able to do. This, you see here, this thing, King's Bench petition. Apparently in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, using some some absolute ancient writ and authority it has instilled into it, it came up and said, nah, we're taking a look at this. Well, nobody filed anything. I don't care. We're looking at this right now. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has some sort of absolute authority, as a vestige of the king's authority. It can do whatever the hell it wants. They, on their own, it was referred to them, and they took this without a direct appeal to themselves. They immediately jumped on top of this. Absolutely archaic, but they're using it. And apparently this is all on par. Like, this is all on the up and up. This is all above board in Pennsylvania. So this is interesting. So what happened? Well, there's a thing called a Post-Conviction Relief Act. Guys, remember, post-conviction relief is where you come back and say, I want a new trial and proper evidence. Stuff after your appeal is done and dusted and you're trying to get things done. Like habeas corpus petition would be another example. And they say, ultimately, the courts are the ones who are in charge of it. The prosecutor doesn't decide whether anybody's entitled to relief. And they say, well, it's not dispositive. A concession of relief is undoubtedly influential. And courts normally give such concessions great weight. They point out, though, but when the prosecutor sides with the defendant, there's generally no adversarial testing of the entitlement to relief. And the court is without the benefit of opposing advocacy. But here's the problem. The court's review is limited to the record before it. And they point out if relevant evidence, and here's where we get to what the issues are. If relevant evidence is withheld, the information goes unconsidered. The court is not permitted to conduct its own investigations and is not equipped to do so. So, an unreliable prosecutorial concession substantially risks the erroneous grant of relief by the court. This is not to say prosecutors should never concede relief, but they say a prosecutor is duty-bound to confess error, provided the facts and law call for it. But the proviso is critical. When relief is not dictated by the record or law, but advocated for personal, political, ideological, policy, or other non-legal reasons, a concession does not minister justice. It facilitates injustice. So they, using their King's Bench jurisdiction, once again, they have their own power here. So here we go. What happened? Well, the DA's office conceded that LeVar Brown, a convicted murderer sentenced to death for a separate murder, was entitled to a trial based on a facially untimely claim. So not only what the district attorney's office like, look, it was out of time, but ultimately this guy he should get a new trial anyway. We agree. They say upon careful review, we conclude this was not reliable. Not reliable. Not reliable. Uh-oh. Does this mean the prosecutors are taking a dive? It sounds like it. It sounds like Larry Krasner's taking a dive. More specifically, we find the district attorney conceded relief, although none was warranted, and violated its duty of candor to the court, withheld material evidence, opposed efforts by amici to gain access to this evidence, and submitted a false stipulation of fact, misstated facts in its pleadings, failed to conduct investigations, and opposed a required hearing. So there was an erroneous grant of a new trial. Well, they say these are troubling. It would not warrant a remedy beyond reversal if they were confined to this one case. But wait, chat, there's more. Since 2018, Krasner's office has conceded relief in well over 100 times, mostly in murder cases. Over 100 murder cases. They're like, yeah, we're just going to let him walk. Like, this is stuff like The Simpsons would make fun of. And they're literally doing it over 100 times. Over 100 times. There have been numerous instances of untrustworthy concessions, lack of candor, misrepresentations, and lack of adequate investigation and avoidance of hearings. And they're going to continue because there are more than 1,000 cases to be reviewed by the Conviction Integrity Unit. And guys, this is like, they're called CIUs. They are big in most metropolitan areas now. And the district attorney vigorously defends its checker concession program as necessary to correct misdeeds by prior administrators. So what happened here? Well, here's the problem. We have to fix this because the prosecutor's just taking a dive, and we can't allow that. So in addition to reversing this grant of a new trial, we hold that in any post-conviction relief case in which the district attorney actually concedes relief, the court shall grant the office of the attorney general notice and the right to intervene in the case before ruling. So there's basically an injunction here. This is an injunction from the court. This is an injunction from the court. Stating seriously, anytime you're going to say, oh, it's okay, someone has to check your work. In Dark Lotus, no. There's no misconduct. It's literally every time they come in, nope, you're right, he's innocent. New trial. No, they're lying. They're basically doing the thing like, I don't even think Matt Walsh in his wildest dreams would ever tweet this is happening. Like the idea that these prosecutors are just going in and saying, like it's like The Simpsons with Quimby and Sideshow Bob. You know, the criminals are riding the ski lift out to freedom. Like, this is literally happening. It's literally happening. The court seems mad. Yes, it's absolutely got the right to be mad. So here's the point, though. And they say, you know what? The attorney general could agree on, giving relief. Okay, well, yeah, there we go. But anyways, let's talk like what happened in this case. So Jamar Richardson began working at Rite Aid in Philadelphia on January 17th, 2003. He was near his house. He was there with his brother, James, who also lived at the house, as well as Kiana Lyons, who lived directly behind them, and also Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown. Mr. Black. Jamar explained to James Lyons and Brown that he would be responsible for opening Rite Aid next morning, and there would be $50K in cash in the store's 2 safes. How the hell is a Rite Aid at 50 G's sitting in it? What the hell is going on there? $50G sitting there. The only other people who would be present would be the manager and a delivery truck driver. So in the morning, the next morning at 4 a.m., the assistant manager arrived. Jamar also arrived and assisted in unloading the truck. After the truck was unloaded, they exited the back and put trash in. As they returned, they encountered Brown, who was armed with a rifle or shotgun. Brown motioned for the manager to go in. Instead, the manager ran away. At that point, they noticed a guy standing nearby. James fired a shot at the manager but missed, and the manager ran off. She saw Brown, who was armed, and James run through the backyard and enter the home. So later that day, they met with 2 other guys, and they said that they tried to rob the Rite Aid, and the manager got away. Okay, so they tried to do it again. Specifically, they wanted to enter the store first and report back about how many people were there. Somebody had to close the gates from the inside and to take the manager to the safe and shoot him in the leg if he gave any trouble. Also to grab the security guard and for Brown to get everyone in the store on the ground and make sure nobody moved. So they finally had a plan, chat. Remember, you got to plan your work and work your plan. I mean, I don't blame them for trying to take $50K from a Rite Aid. That's got to be easy pickings. So they were advised where all the alarms were and how to open the gates. So following the meeting, the lady went to the Rite Aid, bought a few items, noticed there was a security guard and 2 cashiers. While they all remained, they went inside. They followed a different manager down an aisle, and moments later, Denlithia Banks heard a gunshot, heard the guy cry out, but I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. The cashier ran out of the store and called the police. And then they said that a guy saying Chris did it. And they say after that point, they ran back to the house. When police got to the scene, they saw a guy run out the back door, Rite Aid with a gun and a trash bag. They ordered him to stop, but he kept running. So they got the one guy with a gun and a trash bag, which had $2,200 in it, which is, yeah. They discovered the manager in a pool of blood in his own office. He had a bullet hole in his head. Although he's still alive, he was gasping for air and could only respond to the police with a gurgling sound. He died later. That's a shame. F in the chat for that guy. Didn't do nothing wrong. So later that evening, 2 hours and 15 minutes later, the police arrested Van and Brown outside of the house. They were subsequently released. They later gave statements to the detectives in which they implicated other people in the murder. They gave a different thing here where they implicated Kennedy and James. They said there was a girl at the house before that too. Also, they kept implicating people. They also claimed Jamar was involved in the murder and told the police he believed Brown was involved in the failed robbery. So in a proffer session, he gave another statement, and yeah. So ultimately, this statement was memorialized in a thing here, and they go through all of this, what the guy did. They talk about ultimately whether or not Brown did it, and they go through all of this, and ultimately, this is the entirety of it. They say, thus in the statements there, He also identified Brown and Lyons as being involved in the killing. And then finally, a couple days, like a little while later, he gave another lengthy statement. And yes, none of the statements involve a woman known as Kenesha Page. Okay. At Brown's jury trial for the Rite Aid murder again, he was tried jointly with all the others. The evidence against him included the testimony of Van and Lyons and questioning of Van, which included extensive cross-examination by counsel. It elicited considerable information challenging his credibility. He revealed that he had a separate open robbery case, pled guilty to selling drugs, had drug convictions, violated his parole following the Rite Aid murder, and served 9 months in prison. He initially lied to the police to keep himself out of it, lied to the police about 3 times. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Hoped his testimony would help him with his own cases. It was a beneficiary of testimonial immunity about the murder. Like, that's pretty impressive. And this guy, this is a horrible witness to have for the state. But they still got it. Detroit by Dark says I can only talk about the Dabbleverse now. I'll paint the ceiling with the inside of my skull if that happens. If that's what I'm stuck with now. Yes, no plan survives first contact. Yes, but you got to have a plan here. So, ultimately, Brown was convicted of second-degree murder, which makes sense. The trial court sentenced him to life imprisonment for the second-degree murder. So, now this is interesting. Brown was convicted of first-degree murder for the murder of another guy. And, they murdered a guy. Brown stated, there go that pussy. And he shot him multiple times in the back. So, and they talk about one of the aggravating factors supporting the death penalty for this guy was the second-degree murder conviction. So, yeah, this guy's not a nice dude. Not a nice dude. Not a nice dude. So ultimately, they affirmed his judgment of sentence, and this court denied his appeal back in 2007. So in 2007, he filed a timely pro se petition under the Post-Conviction Act and was appointed to represent him and file an amended petition. The attorney withdrew from his case, and his current counsel, the Federal Community Defender Office, entered their appearance on this. The Commonwealth opposed relief initially back in 2007. And then eventually the petition got dismissed and everything was affirmed. In 2020, he filed a second one. And thereafter, in 2021, he filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus. And he claimed that there was Brady material being withheld when Van falsely accused somebody named Kenesha Page of being involved. And he faulted the prosecutor for failing to disclose 4 documents which he attached as exhibits. And he goes through all this about what happened here, but they go through everything here. And they point out Brown argued the suppression of the paperwork deprived them of evidence that could have been used at trial to show the guy was a snitch and he was providing bullshit information. They say they're arguing because of this, they could claim he was lying about when he implicated LeVar Brown on this. And they say the defense could have used this paperwork to discredit the testimony. And then they say in 2021, the Commonwealth, represented by Krasner, filed a joint motion to unseal the petition. And they say additionally, Brown moved without opposition by the district attorney to amend his second petition to assert the allegations. And he got to go into review of the homicide detective files and the district attorney's files for that. Think about that. They let people do stuff. They let people do this. They let them dig around in there. And they say on November 1st, 2021, the district attorney filed a response, and they say a thorough independent review, they agreed he was entitled to a new trial. And they agreed that they violated Brady. They insisted the court was in a position to do what the prior courts couldn't do. And notice, they just keep throwing themselves on the sword for no reason. They say there was misconduct. They also accuse the prosecutors in the prior case of exhibiting a win-at-all-cost mentality and engaging in misconduct that was straining legal and ethical and constitutional obligations. And they said this is an example of what happens when prosecutors cut corners and shirk their ethical duties. So what happened? Well, family members filed a motion to intervene of the dead guy. And they're like, fuck this. No. They alleged the district attorney had a disqualifying conflict of interest because the DA had a prior relationship with the attorneys that were involved. Yeah, I think so. And they argued even if the district attorney were not disqualified, the court can't make a decision without hearing both sides of these issues. Well, ultimately, the court denied the family members, and the court granted intervention solely for the purpose of litigating the conflict of interest issue. But it denied intervention for the purpose of litigating the merits of the petition. And this goes on for a while here, guys. But in 2022, they say once again he wasn't entitled to relief. So it hangs out for a while. And this keeps going. This drags on. And this keeps going. And this court just goes on and on and on. It shows all of the lying and all of the crap. Ultimately, how this goes on, guys, this is years in the making. Years and years in the making. Where this just drags on. But they talk about the King's Bench jurisdiction here. This court has the power to generally minister justice to all persons and exercise the powers of the court as justices of the Court of King's Bench. Common pleas, and that used to be that's an English term. You'd have courts of common pleas. They're called that in Ohio. Common pleas in the Exchequer at Westminster, or any of them could or might do on May 22nd, 1722. So think about that's how far back they're going. Our power is from 1722. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. So the King's Bench powers are very high and transcendent. Our review is de novo, meaning we're reviewing the entirety. And the scope of our review is plenary, meaning it's unlimited in scope. We could do what we want. It's not limited by forms of procedure or to action upon writs of a particular nature. The court may employ any type of process necessary. Literally, it's an entire thing they could do. This is all ad hoc. What are we doing? Whatever we need to. This is like Jack Bauer. It's going, there's no time. But yes, the court may exercise this jurisdiction sua sponte, of their own accord. They may assume jurisdiction even when there is no dispute in a lower court. And they just point out, like, this is, yeah. But anyways, the Attorney General asserts multiple recent concessions of relief that are unreliable. They talk about the federal habeas proceedings for a couple of federal murder cases. Because remember, you do habeas at the federal level. They say in addition to these matters, it's been 115 cases in which there was no hearing. And they can say there's a concerning pattern emerging. And it says, while the cases have involved disputable factual issues, none of them have been resolved through a hearing, but rather naked concessions by the prosecutor. And they say these cases have gone back and forth between the courts as opportunities to concede receded or advanced. And this juggling results in public censure for the cases. And they say that in all but one of the 115 concessions, the district attorney has not retried the defendant, but it's either dismissed or negotiated a plea, often a plea of no contest to reduce charges. So this is literally like what we, this is something like Matt Walsh would say, like the people out there would do all kinds of ridiculousness. that they're just letting people walk, or they're cutting them out to lower deals or lower things. You know, none of these concessions have ever resulted in the arrest and prosecution of a new perpetrator. Yeah. They're not saying nobody did it. They're not saying nobody did it. But the prosecutor's just letting everybody run free. That's insane. It's insane. But yes, the Attorney General says at that point that the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association or private counsel should investigate the claims and present arguments in support of the judgment. And ultimately, what happens here? Well, it's gotten really bad in the Philly DA's office. Because here we go. This is a thing here. In the matter of Nancy Winkleman. Nancy Winkleman is a chief deputy prosecutor in the Philly District Attorney's office. And if there's an in re for you in a court, that's generally not a good thing. So what happened? Well, the supervisor, Nancy Winkleman, and her subordinate misrepresented critical facts in an unsuccessful effort to persuade a judge to vacate a death sentence. The circuit court also upheld the imposition of Rule 11 sanctions on both of them. There's all kinds of issues here. We have disbarred Paul George, finding he knowingly violated the rules of professional conduct. After multiple hearings, we find Nancy Winkleman knowingly made representations to effectuate a policy of vacating all death sentences on appeal. This is insane. Like, this is literally the shit, you know, like some guy on your grandpa on Facebook would tell you is happening. This is ridiculous. And they're just literally doing it. We don't credit her testimony. There's no such policy. We further find that she was willfully blind to or complicit in the misrepresentations. And we emphasize we are not recommending the imposition of discipline because she opposes the death penalty. They say, well, the district attorney may oppose the death penalty and may not further that position by slanting facts and law. And they say we base this decision on her role in misleading the court and her false testimony. They recommend she be suspended from our court for 3 years. So having doing civil appeals for decades, she applied to the district attorney, to serve as an entry-level assistant. Kind of weird already. She testified, although they did not know each other, Larry Krasner phoned her and over breakfast asked her to serve as supervisor of the law division. You know, it's one of the 4 highest level positions, reporting directly to the boss. She had no criminal experience. The responsibilities were virtually all criminal, requiring her to oversee hundreds of appeals, which were almost entirely criminal, post-conviction and habeas litigation. Both exclusively criminal, and civil litigation, which was a tiny portion of her docket. And because she had never practiced criminal law, another lawyer was appointed as her supervisor to, fill her very big gap. So in 2018, they formed the Capital Case Review Committee and met weekly, included the district attorney, his first assistants, Winkleman George, the Homicide and Conviction Integrity Unit chiefs, and the Victim Witness Coordinator. And they say because the district attorney had determined they would not seek the death penalty and things that initiated, the review is limited to post-conviction matters. They considered only capital cases that were selected. And they said, although they acknowledged she was a supervisor, she didn't know which cases he would present or what review he had conducted. She conducted no review. She knew only what was in the memorandums presented. This is ridiculous. It invariably recommended that they could see relief, especially on ineffectiveness grounds. And she agreed with all the recommendations. And they say eventually they conceded relief to all death penalty cases, which is fucking insane. This is really insane, guys. Just what they're doing here is just ridiculous. But this goes into the Brown case, chat. And look, now we're seeing like, This is ridiculous what's going on there. And they say in a brief written by Paul George, the district attorney said the Supreme Court had no authority to reject its concessions. Now, the court appointed that the Attorney General of Josh Shapiro, currently now governor, to serve as an amicus, or an amicus, whichever way you prefer. They refuted both the district attorney's view of the unfettered authority and its ineffectiveness determinations. The court forcefully agreed with the Attorney General. The first ruling, although the district attorney had wide discretion and whether they'll seek the death penalty, after a trial and entry, though, the discretion is narrowed. Yeah, you can't go back. You have no power to instruct the court to undo a verdict. They also rejected the determination that the counsel was ineffective for the guy. Well, they talk about this all started around the time the case was litigated. And it appears after Brown that Krasner relied solely on the recommendations and conceding death penalty challenges. And they say that they conceded relief in every capital case it considered. And she said that, the lady says that after Brown, courts remain obligated to give those concessions great weight. And this just goes on and on here, guys. This is fucking ridiculous. They're literally just, you have a death penalty? Okay, well, we're going to tap out. Tap out. I mean, this is exactly ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, guys. And you're just, how does this work? But this is an example of these Soros attorneys running wild. Absolutely running amok. Absolutely running amok. So, whoa, man. So, yeah, that's something to think about, chat. Something to think about that's going on out there. It just makes your blood boil. Makes your blood just absolutely boil. Let me see here. Topher JN says the gayest part. You live in Wilton Manors? For real, I have a friend who lives there. I just moved from Knoxville to work at Florida Poly, neighbor. Hope to meet Bronca at home, my summer break. Oh, why? Bronca said he's moving. I don't know where he's moving to, but I know he said he's moving out of Colorado. So, but anyways, thank you for $10. Hope you're doing well, man. I own you. For $2 says base ruling, just need to get the National Firearms Act. Yeah, once again, that's not going to happen. Sorry. BobTube says, sorry, Nick. Weed plus guns, yes. Coke plus guns, no. Neutral Robinson for $5 says, a Latinx on his phone hit my car this week, and he potentially bought insurance after the accident to file his claim. They must all go back. Well, from your lips to God's ears, but sadly, he's probably not going back. He goes, oh, no, sorry, Mr. Robinson, I think. Thank you for the $5. Malcolm Cohen's been a member for 26 months. And he says, I only hope to reach the heights of such kings. Yeah. Yes. Edward Scott says, if Sean's defending Clyde from accusations by 2.0, am I practicing without a license? Nope. He's a good boy. He gets all the help he can get. Tejas says, did you know during Pennsylvania during the founding era, had a fourth branch of government called the Board of Censors? They were elected and convened every 7 years with only the power to repeal previously passed laws. It's based. Absolutely based. Those Quakers were onto something. The Quakers were onto something, chat. Tejas says, so mad they had to invoke the authority of the King of England just before America's 250th birthday to felt this guy. Yes. But it is interesting how this court's like, we can do what we want. We can do what we want. So, Bronca just moved to my hometown of Knoxville. Well, there you go. That's interesting. That is interesting. Okay, well, that's better than anywhere. But I mean, even Tennessee's getting a little left leaning there, man. Come down to Florida, La Florida. It's pretty safe. All right, guys, moving on from that, we got Luigi Mangione, the the killer of Brian Thompson, the head of the United Health organization. Remember, he's the one with the suppressed Glock. Walked up to him in the middle of the street in New York and went, thup, thup, thup. Walked up to him, thup. And then got caught later. He's charged with a couple murder at the federal and state level. Well, interestingly enough, this week, in fact, yesterday, there was a pretrial, and they were going to use emotional disturbance as a defense. For some reason, they thought they were going to do that. You're like, okay, well, that works. Problem is, you kind of have to admit, yes, he did it to get this. You're like, yes, he killed them, and he had a lot of mental health problems. Well, today, Agnafilo and Trotter, yes, guys, this is the same people representing Diddy. They said, yes, we respectfully we withdraw our notice of, emotional distress. So they immediately were like, nope, we're done. We changed our mind. We're out. From here, that's what happened there. And then, yes, but what did that do? Well, it changed things because certain things were going to get sealed or unsealed. Well, the court said, in light of the withdrawal, everything I already sealed remains sealed. Suffer, press. Squizgar says Florida is pretend-based. They banned FRTs and binary triggers. We're figuring it out. We're figuring it out down here. So, Fudbuster's helping lead the fight, man. Use code Clyde. Mr. Hutto says Bronca has moved out of 109 countries. Hey now. Hey now. EDW Raptor says, can they use the original motion against Luigi as an admission of guilt? No, because Luigi did not say it. His attorney said it. And what your attorney says is not your statement in that regard. So no, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. But that's a very good question. Very, very good question, EDW. Thank you for $5. Luke Priest says Nashville's entertaining, but I like living an hour away. Yeah. No, makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. So. Amateur Iconoclast for $2 says for the goal. Yes, well, we're going to get to that goal here next because there's another court case where things are brewing. And they are for somebody you love to see suffer, and they deserve nothing but, what's going to happen to them. And it is Judge Hannah Dugan. Guys, you remember she is the judge in Wisconsin who, once again, if she had done this, if any of us, if I had done this as an attorney in her court, I'm sure she would have lost her fucking mind if I went ahead and helped the cops screw around with people and help somebody escape who had a warrant. So, what happened from here? Well, she was tried and she was found guilty by a jury of obstructing ICE. She faces up to 5 years in prison. She probably gets some sort of probation, but I think she's going to go to do a little bit of time in jail. Well, recently she filed a motion for a new trial, and the court of appeal, or the court she was at, said, no, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that here. They point out that the arguments of the defense are garbage. And ultimately, her case is still chugging along. Her sentencing date has not been set. You guys can see this just came out a couple days ago. So we don't get to the end of what's going to happen to her. She's going to have a bad day. Hopefully she gets some jail time out of it. Yeah, she looks like a thumb became a person. She is going to need some help, though, with the commissary funds for herself. So, guys, you want to help her out. That's a way you can help this woman. Get her ready for what's going on. Get wrecked, commie. Be thankful it's not a helicopter ride. Well, yeah, but that's what she gets. That's what she gets here. and she's gonna have to suffer. The court has said ultimately the motion of reconsideration is denied. She is not getting a new hearing. She's just gonna have to suffer, and she's probably going away. Probably going away. Hopefully for a little bit. Examples must be made. Examples must be made. Chat. I just we can't do it otherwise, and there's no acceptable other options to handle this. So she needs to go away. She needs to be dealt with. Let's see here. Let me see. Let's see. What is? Let's see. Oh, I know what I'm looking for here. Oh, hold on here, chat. Why is this not working? Oh, this now moving on. This is a little. I'm a little concerned about this here, but there is a. Why is this not working? Damn, I hate YouTube sometimes. So YouTube is getting frustrating to work with it at times here. Let me tell you what. Let me tell you what. All right, guys. So Oliver Tree died. I don't know. Yeah, I still don't know who that is. Still don't know who all this is. So it's somebody that Ethan Klein was really sad about. So she starts stretching out her prison personnel so she can bring a cell phone and charger with her. Well, like there's guys like I get cell phone calls from prison still. Like you're like, how do you get that phone in? Through a guard, or sometimes stuff gets hooped or stuff gets hidden. I don't know, man. That's why it's probably better to have a flip phone or something. But hey, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? All right, guys. So now from here, it's a little interesting. This thing, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is facing some felony charges. Here and it's weird. It's weird. So he's facing felony charges for fraud and theft. So what did he do? When you guys, Floyd Mayweather, not former heavyweight, but former lightweight champion of the world, famous for trying to have a fight with Manny Pacquiao and fighting all these people. And, he set his career up. Well, he, passed a bad check for a $200,000 purchase. You're like, well, what the hell did he write a check for? Well, he did it for a watch. Now it's funny because the statute says he passed a check with the intent to defraud with a value of $1,200 or greater. Well, it's $200,000. So, now here's the thing: there was no warrant. His attorney showed up. So what did he do? He wrote out a check for $200 for a watch. Now you're like, okay, well, like, what kind of watch was it? Like, what are we talking about? Like, what was it? And like, how good was it? Well, it was an Audemars Piguet watch, and they're fancy. They are fancy watches. They are some of the finest Swiss watches out there. If you guys have never seen their stuff, like they got some good stuff. And they can be very expensive. They can be very expensive watches if you're like a watch autist. They can be worth quite a bit of money if you want to do them. Is it fancier than a G-Shock? Yes. Yes. Yes, that is yes, yes. Floyd Mayweather is famous for dodging Manny Pacquiao. So, anyways, he was at a place called Gold and Beyond in 20. And here's the thing: this occurred back in 2024. So you're like, what happened? Well, he bought it back then, and they tried to get him to pay. Ultimately, that's the thing here. Why did this take so long? Because the guy who ran the store wanted to get paid. And you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. That makes sense trying to get paid. I mean, I get it. You want to get paid and you're trying to work this out with this guy. Like, hey, man, let's avoid going to court. And they say that, ultimately we've had a relationship. Let's get this done. But yeah, there's a bunch of things Floyd Mayweather owes money for. He owes the IRS like a $7 million in unpaid taxes. He pulled a DSP. All kinds of people say he owes them money. And yeah, like at the end of the day, the owners of the store were like, just pay us, man. Give us our thing. And he wouldn't do it. So eventually they went to Luke, I do have an ad blocker on. It's just some of this shit just still stays there. Like, and it's hard because half these channels fucking shit their pants. So half these websites shit their pants. But I have a pretty good ad blocker. So ultimately, he's got he has an attorney show up. And he's got a case set in September. So it's like, give the watch back or fucking do something, Floyd. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, oh, I didn't mean to, or if I did write the check and I didn't mean for it to bounce, okay, cool, then pay up. Like, you have to pay up or give the fucking watch back. Like, it's pretty obvious. So who knows what he's gonna do? Who knows what kind of bullshit he's gonna come up with? But one way or another, he's gonna have to take care of this. So it'll be interesting to see how he does this. But yes, bouncing a $200,000 check is very, very interesting. You could say Mayweather's on a fraud watch list. Yes, he does owe 50 Cent a reading of Harry Potter, all kinds of stuff. You're not trying to buy the watch to where Floyd was trying to buy the Legos. I get that. We should tell David. Like, MLS, listen. Everybody's involved. Oh no, chat. Oh no. Let's see. He'll hire Barnes. Yeah. Although I think Barnes says he doesn't practice in Las Vegas because he doesn't want to cause problems there. Guess that he ran out of petty cash in the petty cash pocket. Yeah. Well. Yes, dude made hundreds of millions of dollars and couldn't hire an accountant to pay his taxes. Well, that's kind of normal. I mean, celebrities being shitty with their money is pretty obvious. Like, that's a tale as old as time. Tale as old as time. So we'll find out. So we'll see. But I think this is very interesting to see if anything else gets filed in this or how this all works out. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm looking forward to it. Wesley Snipes, anyone? Well, there's that too. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Very true. Very true. Brent says, did I see the Charlotte City Councilwoman who spent 124 of COVID money on her 50th birthday? Wow. That's impressive. That's impressive. Good for her. That's good grift. Good scamming. Are you guys joking or fighting? It's hard to tell. Out there talking about your towers. Towers are team building, guys. So be in a team. be on a team, but I'm curious to see how this resolves because they're not claiming he didn't pay, or they're not claiming it was given away for free. So, although I could see him saying like, "Oh, they gave it to me to try on, and I paid him with exposure." That would be hilarious if they tried that. That would be hilarious. So, okay, let's see. What do we got here? Did I miss something? Oh no, we're actually kind of catching up here. We're catching up. We're going through a bunch of stuff here. Let's see. Oh, hold on here. Yeah, that's why I accidentally deleted the thing here. Okay. So the next thing, guys, when we were watching the UFC, apparently some enterprising young men were getting ready to do an attack on the White House, or preparing for an attack on the White House, which is like, of all the things you could hit, I don't think you'd want to do it with a drone. That place is going to be crawling with electronic warfare stuff, all kinds of military and secret things nobody knows about. But I know a lot of people like suspected I was involved in it because this all happened in Ohio. But you know what, chat? Remember, if I did it, you're going to know when it happens. Like, if I was in charge of this, they would have actually made it happen or tried to. And then C3 metal thingies for Tad Sobs. Thank you for your support. Big freaking support tonight, chat. Big fucking energy tonight, guys. Let's keep going here. So what are these guys who are going to do? So these guys are going to bomb and attack the White House and go after Donald Blumf. Now, so one of the guys involved was an illegal immigrant, granted, who got DACA status. Abraham Alvarez is from Mexico, and he's one of the guys in charge of this. So he recruited all kinds of people to get involved. They were going to attack people. Well, and obviously, not going to lie, that's still a base picture of all the crap going on at the UFC. Like, really, guys, it is super cool. It's super base what they set up and did. Hold on one more second, chat. I got to take care of this. All right. So, what do they do with these guys? Well, so these guys were involved, and there's up to 23 individuals who were involved in this. One of the guys is well, when I saw this guy, I'm like, there's no way this is a real person. But apparently, this is a real person. And no, chat, it's not my cousin or anything like that. But oh man, this guy's a little rough. So, this is Tyson proper. Yes, this is a person. It's not AI. But this is a human being. And this gentleman is 19 years old. You're like, whoa. What? When I heard that, I'm like, are you sure you don't mean like 29 or 39? 19 years old? Like, oh my God. Bruh. Yeah, it's all an op. It's all propaganda, chat. You're like, God damn. I know it. Yes. It's like in Bad Boys. How old are you? 17. Like, nigga, you look 40. It's like, how old are you? I'm 19. Bro, you look like you're 35, 40 years old, man. It's like, how old are you? 19. You look like you're 50. It's like, damn. You should have seen him when he was 10. Yeah. I've seen 19-year-old women that age badly, but goddamn. Oh, yeah. 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 19, maybe 19 years ago. It's a hard 19 years. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. His own cousin. Ah. All right. Anyway, so this is Tyson proper. You might say, "Oh, Tyson, like Tyson, like the chick, like Tyson." No, that's not how we spell Tyson. Apparently, in his house. Yeah, no. This is actually really, yeah. This is where you're like, wait, what? Yeah, Tyson proper. You know, parents that phonetically spell, you're like, I'm not surprised we end up at this point. That's a proper white boy name. I mean, kind of. It's very minority coded though, to me, in my opinion. So that's totally a made up Fed name. It's awful. It's awful. That's not even phonetic. Maybe Tyson is a black name or a dog name. All right, so what did these guys do? Well, as they get into this, there's a criminal complaint, conspiracies to commit murder and offenses against the United States. You know, depending on the situation, this could be mega based, depending on who you're going to kill and what you're going to do. So I'm not automatically against them yet. Attempted murder of an officer or employee of the United States, kind of based. Possession of firearm furtherance or crime of violence. I mean, you have to. It's the easiest way. And transfer of firearm used to commit felonies. I mean, base as well. So, what is this done by? Well, there's a glowy with the Joint Task Force in Ohio. Blah, 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 blah. I graduated from Penn State. Okay. Ooh, with a master's in Homeland Security, you know, and counterterrorism. Ooh, sounds fancy. I graduated from the Ohio State University. Remember, guys, it's the Ohio State University. I just went to an Ohio State University with a bachelor's degree in international studies, security, and intelligence. What the fuck kind of shit do they offer nowadays? Where you sit there and play Rainbow Six or like just spurg out about things? Like, is that how you do it? Because like I could have done well in these classes. I could have gotten these degrees. That sounds like fun. Sounds like all kinds of fun. Honestly. Sounds like all kinds of fun. Why did this stuff exist for me? So he's done all kinds of things here. Federal agents, blah, 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 blah. So probable cause. On June 10th, officers of the Knox County Sheriff's Office, which if you guys don't know where Knox County, Ohio is, I mean, this is in God's country. God's country, chat. God's country where God's plan. You guys ever heard of Mount Vernon? This is where you are. You are deep in the heart of Ohio. You are in the heart of it all. You're down by Bangs, Ohio. Martinsburg, Ohio. Not for us. Not for my people. I don't know Siphon Filter. I remember playing Siphon Filter as well. So, the Mount Vernon, yes. Looks like a huge county by Ohio standards. Yeah, it's actually not. Largest county is farther up north. up in the northeast corner. Anyways, let's get back to what this guy did. So there was a disturbance there. Well, this guy's mother was concerned about her son due to his recent conduct, including gun purchases and communicating with individuals online. So his mom's like, I don't like when he's talking to these gentlemen online. They say the N-word all the time. So he's a 19-year-old who lives with his parents, and he stated he met random people online, and been planning recons with these individuals. No! 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 Do not plan a recon with random people online. Don't plan an op with random people online. So his dad said they've been planning to leave this upcoming weekend and to meet with these online individuals. He said his son had also acquired camping gear, food, ballistic plates, base, a new shotgun. Okay, you think base, but not so much. A rifle, lots of ammunition, based, extra magazines, based, and plate carriers, based. He already spent $3,000 of his graduation money to purchase the previous equipment. You're like, oh God, how if he spent $3,000, how much good quality shit did he buy? We're gonna get to that, but it's like just graduate high school and now he's already getting indicted. It's like, goddamn. It'd be funny if he's in that list of kids like most likely to go to prison. I kind of want to see that yearbook. So he had quit his job recently in preparation to meet the individuals. His father didn't have any more information, so the sheriff's department took photos of the equipment. 2 plate carriers, AR magazines, and a bullpup rifle painted with an American flag. That sounds based. Oh, what kind of rifle? At the conclusion, he was transported to the hospital for an emergency admission based on homicidal ideations. So they're indicting a guy who got fucking pink slipped. So they contacted the FBI as a result of the interactions, interviewing them. So they interviewed the mom. There was a group of people who were claimed to be ex-military and Christian-based. Okay, well, so far, so bad. They expressed ultra-religious and anti-government sentiments. Based! Absolutely based right now. What's so hard? Yeah. What's so hard to love now at this point? Like, what's not to love? They like God and hate the government. Well, specifically saying brazen about corruption, the handling of the Epstein files, data centers taking up all the water. Based. Yeah, that's bad. And other government actions. So far, I agree with these guys. The mom said talking to these individuals is causing him to lean heavily into his religion. Based. They're trying to manipulate her son. Well, welcome to the world, honey. Everybody's going to manipulate your son. In addition to the firearms, she observed that he's engaged in physical training. Based. Furthering his aspirations to join the police or military. She's like, he's out working out. What's wrong with that? Get your cardio up, chat. If you want to pull an op, you got to have some cardio. These communications occurred on his cell phone. She provided the cell phone to her son. She observed, she stated she observed him researching and mapping locations. She was snooping. His mom was checking her out. His mom was checking out the phone. Not based. She observed images of DC and sending all things around. She would overhear him talking on the phone, and she said he couldn't tell her exactly what he was doing. But he was looking at different locations and intended to conduct recon as well as hit and run missions. Mom believed that was conducting shootings and then leaving. Well, brilliant fucking work there, honey. So they went to his house. They found a bunch of spent casings. And they stated that he'd become more closed off from his family, spent most of his time online speaking to people. You could put me in this too. They also were highlighting concerning statements he had made, such as making sympathetic comments about Adolf Hitler. Uh-oh. Oh no, chat! And posting anti-Semitic comments on Facebook. Yeah. Oh no. Oh no, chat. I see me. I see me in this. Oh no. Yes. They're on to us, chat. Oh my god, where's 2.0? She's planning all this. She's gonna come out the corner, yes. Is this me? Maybe. Would Mama Criminal turn in me? Sean, no. Mama Criminal would be like, that's my boy. Like, she'd be like, oh, honey, if you're gonna, like, she'd help me plan the op a little bit. And then when it pulls off, the people come on interview, she's like, that's my Sean, just killing everybody. Anchor shots for everyone. Oh. So anyway. Hence, search warrant was executed. They seized his iPhone, which was previously seized to preserve evidence. During the search, they observed chats on Signal that laid out plans to conduct the attack. Set your Signal to delete almost immediately, chat. They had imagery in the National Capital Region and maps of the area. So they finally interviewed the guy after he's already been fucking pink slipped. During the interview, he admitted to planning the attack, and they were attacking the UFC event. According to him, some of the group would participate began communicating via a TikTok group called Vanguard of the Old. This sounds like a fucking Fed op. Members of the group stated they want to protect the United States. Members of the group believed the U.S. needed to be torn down so it could be rebuilt. Some expressed a desire that people who were involved with Jeffrey Epstein should not govern the country. More serious members of the group, including Proper, moved their stuff to Signal. They planned an attack. They believe many of the group members had prior military experience. The group was broken into 3 tiers, with Tier 1 having to meet physical fitness standards and acquire equipment like body armor and firearms. He admitted to being one of the team leaders. Oh, this is your team leader for your fucking op, chat. This is the team leader for your op. You're going to go out like on a one-way trip and start stacking bodies like firewood. This is the guy leading your fire team, brother. It's like, we're fucked. Slightly better than me, guys. Slightly better than me being involved, but goddamn. Goddamn, this ain't good. Like,
you are gay, LMAO.
I mean, really, these guys, like, absolutely gay. There's no way this is legit. This is my Discord, yes. You have a more robust hairline, yes. Yes, peak Aryan physique, yes. What do you mean? He looks like peak performance, yeah. Beard's his nephew, yes. Don't worry, sir. I'm from the internet. I'm here to lead us. Like, oh, God. So he described the general plan. All members would leave their homes on Friday or Saturday to meet up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, home of the Marcy's Heights, where the Confederates repelled even the Iron Brigade. Proper was going to take himself his weapons and body armor and everything. He planned to take extra body armor for members of the group. How much fucking body armor did this guy buy? He was also going to pick up more people, and they were going to be in West Virginia. He said he was not going to go to the protest in order to shoot people. Several other members of the group were going to do that instead. The plan, as he knew, was to stage a demonstration on the north side of the White House while the demonstration was taking place. The group would fly small drones laden with unspecified IEDs. It would detonate over the north side of the UFC arena. When the aircraft detonated, the intent was to force a crowd and high HVTs to evacuate to the south. The HVTs are going into the White House. That is the most secure place in the world. Any HVT's protective detail is dragging them into the White House and then getting them down into like the secure areas of the White House. Those would be far easier to defend than having them out in the open in a mass of people. They were gonna members of the group acting as snipers. Yeah, that's gonna happen with guns stashed away. Yeah, this is just the attack was designed to jumpstart a revolution. Well, so they found a large chat, 19 individuals. There were smaller chat groups. There are role assignments such as shooters or shooters at another location. I mean, they'd have to do this like Bataclan style and just have like roving kill teams. They also said they were discussing exit and escape and evasion plans. There's no escape and evasion of something like this, dude. If you're doing this, this is a fucking one-way ticket. This is a one-way ticket. There's no way around this. So I don't know why they'd even bother. Oh, we're going to do E&E. No, you're not. Yes, their plan relies on the White House not having primo EW stuff. I mean, they'll have all kinds of like almost illegal weapons to use. But yeah, this is all Fed stuff, it seems like. Locations of safe houses, which you would have already had to set up months and months in advance. Exfiltration routes. Ain't none of that happening. Some would travel from the White House to the Potomac River and travel along the river to escape the area. You're just going to walk. You can't just walk along the Potomac River. You will get noticed. So it's just. Well, he says, I got the one lady, Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee. And she's taking money from Israel, and the pro-Israel lobby supports them. I mean, that's not a bad reason to go take care of stuff. And it says, these are people we're going to focus on. And that sent U.S. Senator Jim Justice, who's from West Virginia. Shelley Moore Capito, I don't know where. Carol Miller, and Riley Moore. And the 4 images have been taken from the website APAC Tracker. And he says that he's aware of all the stuff going on. Eventually, on June 5th, he had purchased a bullpup shotgun. And you're like, ew. Ew. And yeah, he bought one of those Panzer Arms, like, bullpup shotguns that are out here. And it's like, ew, 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 ew. So, yeah, it's so impressive, the skill set of these people, isn't it? You'll be huffing sewage fumes the whole time, thanks to Maryland. Well, that's a separate matter. That's a separate matter. P-Dub is saying that's the other senator from West Virginia. Wow, that's a very Italian name for West Virginia. I didn't know they liked Dagos down there. Panzer Arms, more like Pansy Arms. Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, there's all kinds of like. So, anyways, chat. Here is the gun that was found with Tyson proper. We're just going to show it real quick so you guys can see it. Here we go. Open image in new tab. So let me see here. Okay, so there we go. All right, chat, here you go. This is the picture of it. This is one of those Panzer Arms shotguns. These things are fucking garbage. Do not buy one. I'm at work pretending to sell implants. Well, there you go. But anyways, yeah, you know, like if it had been my team, we would have done it. Like, there's no. Well, yes, a lot of WAP settled in Wheeling to go. They dug coal together. Yes, nothing says an American patriot like using a gun made in Turkey. I understand, but still, like if you're gonna do it, man, I would have just told everybody it's a one-way trip. Do it Bataclan style or Mumbai style, and just operate as 3 or 4 man teams, and just keep going until you're dead. That's really the only way you can do it. It's the only way you can really do it at this point in this world. At least that's how I would tell you to do it. That's how I would tell you to do it, chat. But I'm like that. I am like that. And then from here, guys, this is the last thing. We talked about this on Monday. In Brazil, I don't know how this isn't murder. If you guys haven't seen this, this is absolutely fucked. But these guys got charged. This has to be murder. So this is in Brazil, and this is at a place where you could bungee jump. If you guys haven't seen this yet, oof.
Gente! Gente, acorda, velho!
Yeah, she was bungee jumping, and you're like, wait, no, there's no way that happened. Oh, just you watch.
Ai, meu Deus do céu!
Watch that again, chat. This is here you go. Yeah, here you go.
Tá sem corda.
Yes. Yeah, so I wouldn't call what you did bungee jumping. Well, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, I don't know how that's not murder. Apparently the guys have been charged, but like that's 100% murder. And yeah, it's very sus why nobody said nothing. It's very sus why nobody said nothing. Yeah, she survived and then died later. Bridge doesn't seem very high. It's like 100 feet up. So, are they Muslim? No, but they were in Brazil. So it's like you're in Brazil. It's like TIA, Daddy, TIA. Apparently, people are trying to tell me down the court. It's like, oh no. Yes, they're Brazilians. I mean, that's an answer too. So. All right, guys, that is it for us tonight. So we got a couple more things to get to here. Amateur Iconoclast for $5 says, goal! Yes. Help Judge Dugan get her commissary ready. Erica Thorpe for $4.99 says, goal net. Well, thank you, Erica. Now, EDW Raptor for $5 says, goal! Yes, in honor of Team USA. South Australia, we're coming for you. Luke Priest has been a member for 4 months. Thank you, Luke. Says, did you read Thomas's anti-BWF concurrence yet? Goals, no. But there's some crazy ones out there. There's some appeals that were done. I'm kind of curious to know how that all works out. Wrestler Town says for $2, I would follow that man into hell. It's like, I don't know what kind of hell you're following them into, but man, you might want to pick a better hell. EDW Raptor for $5 calls him Lieutenant Porkins leading Meal Team 6. Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing out there, chat. That's a thing. So thank you for the $5. Ugly Thumb says broke the first rule. His name was Robert Paulson. Yes. Do it more enthusiasm, Sean. Goal! Lol. Although it's Brazil, you gotta go. Wait. Oh, that's good. She experienced a Brazilian kilograms of force on impact. Yes. Oh. Thought you were yelling goal because the girl was thrown in Brazil. Yes. You know, God's plan, chat. God's plan. How did she not realize she wasn't hooked up? Because she was like a tourist. It was the guys doing that. That's the real issue there. That's the real issue. So. Time for the Aussies to recruit the emu and Viva la Revolucion. Well, the Australians need to find their, like Hayden's out there fighting the good fight, but a lot of Aussies are cocks, mate. The cocks. They don't want to fight. So, Skyrone, Darius McFifteen Ace. Says, good morning, chat. Yes, good morning, sir. Tim of Tam says, we were in the World Cup. Yeah, you're in the same group as us, and we're gonna beat that ass. Beat that ass. Is anyone else waiting to get their money back? Yeah, do you think people asked for refunds? I think they did. Yeah. Oh my God. All right, chat. Well, that is it for us here. We are going to be heading over to locals. That's right, chat. We got that going again tonight. Potentiallycriminal.locals.com. We're back in the saddle. Guys, join us over there. Promo code ICESTORM. Get you 1 month free access to the shows. Do a show Monday nights. We do a show tonight. That's for you guys if you join in support. So I hope to see you guys there. It will be a fun time. Do a very special locals tonight for Autism Pride Day. Well, every day we're proud of our autism. So no. All right, chat. So with that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. We got some lolcow stuff to get into. We're going to go through Shuli's lawsuit. I had a chance to finally read that. We got iDubbbz bending the knee to Ethan Klein, and then haven't had a chance to do it yet, but we are going to have to take the L, it looks like, on the Denham's Ethan Klein thing. I'll take that L for you guys. I'll fall on that sword. So with that said, chat, I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Doesn't. Unless you're Carmelo, then you're guilty as fuck. So, good night, chat, and take care, everybody. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much tonight for a great show. I felt like it was a good one. Felt it like right here. So, good night, chat.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains.
Okay, I tried emailing him about that. I can't get it to work.
White claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops. Even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy that hated you?